Cartoons that we do have this morning in the People Daily. This is what Stano has picked up today regarding State House that we understand right now it will cost taxpayers 795 million shillings for renovations. And on the other side, the local public hospitals still, they are lacking medicine, water, oxygen, salaries. Where is the priority, as he's trying to actually depict here from his cartoon today? And since it's been hacking back into history, it's a storied history for the State House, 117 years, and they're saying now it is prime for it to be renovated. And people are questioning, you want to tell me in all those years there has not been any renovations being done and maintenance on State House as it is right now, that they're saying it's in a very rickety position as it is. That's why the president now is a nomad, so to speak, going to different state houses in Nakuru, and of course also in Mombasa as well. This is Stano today, and we've hit now the 160 shillings mark, that to the dollar. Right, is what we have right now. As you can see, it is heavy. And you can see the executive there, that is the president and the deputy president, trying to hold this sick shilling, who's really in a dire state, as you can see, almost falling down. That's where we headed from 154. We began at 120, 140. We were at 154, 156. Now, officially, we are 160 shillings to the dollar and 200 shillings to the sterling pound as it is right now. Still, we are waiting to hear what intervention is coming from government as it is. But we continue pace with the conversation on the judiciary. Bring it on. And we've seen since now he has been on that particular, of course, fighting sport as a boxer, as it's being depicted here by Victor. Bring it on. The judiciary now has reacted, and we saw the press conference. This is what we're trying to slice and dice with the panelists here this morning. And also the biggest question that we're asking, what do you think and decipher from this particular, as I roll back to the Standard on page 7 today? We have the AG, who is a member of the Judicial Service Commission, appearing yesterday, of course, in this particular press conference. What was ongoing in his heart, in his mind? He is supposed to be the first port of call as far as advisory or legal matters role is concerned. And we wanted to get reactions from our panelists here this morning. Eden Kenan, you wanted to comment on this. Can I just yes, hold you on to that, because you've spoken for long, so that we can hear from Honorable Manzo, then you react to this, and other panelists as well.
Yes, thank you, Diba, for having me this morning. And you know, the most tricky bit of it is that the Attorney General is a member of Judicial Service Commission, and at the same time is an advisor, is a legal advisor to the government. And on his own right, he's a politician. And having been Speaker of the National Assembly for 10 years, had an opportunity to protect or interact or work for the government. And even to be appointed in that particular situation, you must be very much trusted. But all the Attorney General is doing is to support the truth and support the law. The Constitution is very clear, first and foremost, that if you have a complaint against any particular judge, you have to record, you know, a statement to the Judicial Service Commission, and then they will take it up. If you have a matter pending in court, like if the High Court issues an injunction, what his lawyers should have done is, with immediate effect, go to Court of Appeal and lift that injunction, and things go on. But you cannot now come and say, I will not obey this particular court order, and I will disobey many other court orders which seem to hinder my activities. This is, you know, the basis of this was a law, first of all, which was achieved through bribe in the National Assembly. So you begin by bribing the National Assembly or intimidating the National Assembly, and then you move on to when the courts decide there is something not right with this law, and they decide that the levy is not decided whether it's a tax or a levy, and then the court advises, please have a legal framework, meaning let Parliament put a law into place to deal with this. You still disobey that, and then you go on, instead of going to Court of Appeal and getting this settled, and even up to Supreme Court, you decide not only this court order, but any other court order, I will disobey. You see that goes into Article 143, 144, and 145. Although a president is supposed to be shielded against criminal proceedings, He's not shielded against constitutional proceedings. He's also not shielded against impeachment. So there's a way, you know, Kenyans, when they elected this government, or this government came into office by whatever means, they did not expect this sort of attitude. They did not expect the nastiness, the high-handedness, and the impunity this government is coming with. So that's why you find a lot of members of parliament who are earlier on defending this government, and even the public themselves have a problem. They have run away. Only Honorable Kainani now is left with Ruto in the whole parliament defending him. People are scared of telling the president the truth. And I believe the president should be humble enough. When you are president, you are not the boss. You are a servant of the people. You should serve the people under the constitution. You are sworn in. And one of the very critical institutions is the judiciary. And you see, judiciary is very political. And they have discretion into many things. So presidents come and go, and the judiciary remains, the judges remains. You cannot take away the independence of an individual judge. With the moment you attack a judge, you have attacked all judges. So if President Ruto has an issue with a particular judge, together with his deputy, deal with that particular issue. What the deputy is talking about is the biggest joke of the year. If you lost a matter, you had a right to appeal. You cannot now record a statement against a judge and against a judgment you never appealed against. You know, the court made a decision. And you must really have evidence that there was corruption. And even when you have that evidence, it has to be processed by Judicial Service Commission, and a decision will be made. After that decision of Judicial Service Commission, you are still free to go to the High Court or any other relevant court to challenge the decision of the Judicial Service Commission. So that's what you call justice. That is where there's fairness. Our constitution is very good. But in my own opinion, the president has abused the constitution.
Thank you.
In fact, he has broken the constitution, and that's a basis for his impeachment.
It's a basis for impeachment. Honorable Keenan, I'll come to you. Let's hear from Dr. Otena Molo. If you look at that particular picture, what do you decipher? What was going on in, of course, you can't hold brief for, but you can actually just give him being the Attorney General, the decisions that have been made without us hearing his input on this particular decisions. Housing levy is one of them. We have now members of parliament, a departmental committee on housing and national planning that is planning to go to 19 counties to hear about housing levy. A matter is still in court. There's no legal framework around it yet. People now are being deducted the housing levy.
Yes. As we talk about this matter, let us remember the composition of the Judicial Service Commission. We intentionally crafted the commission in such a way that the various sectors are actually represented in the Judicial Service Commission. It's not just a preserve of lawyers or of the judiciary. The Attorney General sits there as a representative of the executive. And one would expect that if there are any legitimate or genuine concerns that the executive has, they would brief the Attorney General, who would then raise it formally in their sitting as the Judicial Service Commission. If the president has information, and I agree with Honorable Kainan that he must get briefings more than us, okay? So he probably knows things that we don't know. Mm-hmm. But precisely because of that, you cannot then come in public and make allegations which are unsubstantiated. If the president has details that we don't know, mm-hmm. then either he can file it directly, yes, or he can brief the Attorney General to present it before the Judicial Service Commission. That has not been done. Instead, we are seeing blanket condemnation of the judiciary. That is completely wrong. There are two persons there, not just one, two, who are actually appointed by the president to represent the public. And Honorable Isaac Ruto is one of them. If the president believes that the general public in Kenya perceives the judiciary as corrupt and wants certain things to be done, one expects that then they would do it through the two representatives who represent the public. So it's completely wrong. I think the Judicial Service Commission is being reasonable. Any person, you do not need to be a lawyer. You just need to be a reasonable person to see that the president and his deputy are speaking unreasonably. Secondly, historically we should remember, whenever we've had epochs of issues raised against the judiciary, generally or particularly, there's a systematic way of going about it. Sometimes we've got it wrong, sometimes we've got it right. When President Kibaki came into power and there was need to act and probe the judiciary, there was the Ringera inquiry. You remember it? What was then called the radical surgery, which turned out to have been the wrong way to go because it was a surgery by radicals rather than a radical surgery. It ended up doing much more harm than it had set to do. But after that, in 2007, when we created the bodies that were now necessary to transit, you remember we had a whole inquiry which systematically looked into the judiciary, in fact, in terms of each judicial officer. And there are a number of judicial officers who are systematically removed in an open hearing where they are even allowed to appear with the advocates. You know, the issues are presented to you and you respond to them. If William Ruto believes that the judiciary is so rotten, he only has two choices: either to present that evidence before the Judicial Service Commission, or if there's need for a broader inquiry, then to set up a mechanism for that broad, respectful, and fair inquiry, not to go the way they're going right now. I think that the example of why it is wrong, Ruto makes unsubstantiated allegations. Then Rigathi Gachagua now comes and says, yes, he is right. Even I had a case, you know, and there's this particular judge who treated me unfairly. Look at that. First, you cannot be a judge in your own cause because you are taken to court and some orders were made against you. Now that judge is corrupt because they made the orders against you. He has not even alleged that those orders were procured by corruption. But if it was corruption, look at the situation. So who was corrupt? Because it's the EACC and the police who are prosecuting him. Is he suggesting that the EACC and the police were corrupt? And he had loads of money. And now that he talks about it, perhaps we should talk about it. That case, Rigathi Gachagua should not be the deputy president because he would fail the integrity test. How did he have so much money in that account? And you know, when he became deputy president, the case was simply withdrawn and they were ordered to release the monies to him on no basis. If one is to talk of corruption, then perhaps the corruption is not his being taken to court. It is how that court matter terminated. And perhaps he's right. Perhaps we should inquire deeply into that. I think that what we should know is this, and it's important to remember how it started. Somewhere around the second week of December, William Ruto went on a public diatribe to attack lawyers and litigants who had gone to court. In fact, he said he'll behead them. He said that that sword, it was not given to him, you know, as a decoration. He'll use it to behead, literally speaking. You know, I am one of the advocates. We are on national TV, that's why I'm saying this, because it's on record. And if you look at my tweet of 17th December, I responded. And I said, it is unfortunate that President William Ruto is now threatening to behead litigants and lawyers for going to court. And I said in that tweet that Kenyans should watch. That attack is not really on the lawyers and litigants. It's actually against the judiciary. True to my words, within a week or two, now he came out to target the people he was really talking about. You see, there can be nothing like blaming people for going to court. That's a constitutional right. There can be nothing of blaming a court that interprets the Constitution. These things are not new. I am one of the lawyers. In fact, I was leading the team that went to court to challenge affordable housing, okay? Out of principle. The very things we told the court are things I had said on the floor of the National Assembly and everyone ignored. Because the National Assembly is dead. We have a National Assembly where nothing in terms of reason matters. We have a National Assembly where even debate is stifled. On things like this, you do not even get a proper opportunity to debate. They just say, put the question. If you want to know a perfect example that we are dead as a National Assembly, President Ruto says he'll disobey court orders, and then the National Assembly puts advertisement in direct contravention of court orders that they are going to conduct public hearings in respect of, that part of legislation. Because they are taking a cue not from the people, but from the president, who's the head of another, arm of government. I think it's really, really unfortunate. And lastly, yes, I sympathize with my brother, Honorable Kenan. He's a good man, but he's a good man who's now, imperiled. Because he's one of the very few who still have the courage to come out and defend this regime. So when he says he's outnumbered here, I'm sure it's true. But it's because they are very thin in terms of those who can have the courage to still come.
Let me come to you because you're outnumbered.
Yes.
Makali also was outnumbered yesterday, so it's only fair that today.
Yes, but let's deal with issues from
maybe we begin.
Position.
You wanted to respond to this particular picture first of all.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
We need to understand the dynamics of some of the things that we engage in. That particular picture, and I'm glad that my friend here Mungeni is a commissioner with the Parliamentary Service Commission. He understands perfectly the structure and the composition of all Chapter 15 constitutional commissions. And therefore, the presence of the Attorney General, and I read Article 171 of the Constitution, clearly lays the basis for the establishment of the Judicial Service Commission. So the Attorney General being there, and Isaac Ruto being there, the moment, no one about the appointing authority or the way you are appointed, you become part of the Judicial Service Commission. I have gone through, I've had the advantage of going through, other than all the misinterpretations and sensational interpretation of what he said, I've had an opportunity to look at the statement by the Judicial Service Commission. And I can forward it to you or give it to you to read. There's nothing absolutely in that particular statement. What the CJ did, and I believe that is why the Attorney General and Isaac Ruto were part of that particular statement, was to give the chronology of all the incidents of corruption reported the last 1 year, how they were dealt with, what is bending, and the general constitutional, principles. Nothing absolutely in what is contained here. And therefore, the presence of Attorney General, who is also a seasoned lawyer, our former speaker, Isaac Ruto is one of the most hilarious, I would say witty politicians. Their presence there does not in any way negate the thinking of the appointing authority, if that was what my friends here were alluding to. Secondly, I wanted to find out whether, I think most of my friends here are conflicted. So you know the party. Three, by having not accepted up to now that Ruto, President Ruto, that's why they're not even referring to him as President Ruto, is the 5th president of the Republic of Kenya, elected by the people of Kenya and confirmed by the Supreme Court. And I think that should be the basics. Now come to these other things. I get this. And you can see they're even speculating. What the DP regarding said is he's going to present a petition. We do not know. Why will we speculate? Why don't you wait for that day? It is on that day. You can present yourself to the venue. You understand and you know where it's supposed to be done. Wait for it. It may not be on the issues right now they're speculating. So that itself also tells you that they are highly prejudiced and partisan even in their own thinking. And three, and more fundamentally, is regarding is the deputy president, part of the presidency. You may have a beef with him. That fact must be accepted. He's part of the president. He's the deputy president of the Republic of Kenya. So those are the things he's going to do as a citizen, which is his constitutional right. Should be given an opportunity and wait until that moment comes. But let's come back to the issues. You see, look at the realities. And I want to also forward you a video clip of what the Honorable Raila said immediately he lost the Supreme Court battle. Have they ever questioned that Raila was condemning the judiciary? In fact, he said the judiciary should be disbanded. That he has lost faith in the entire judicial structure. I haven't seen my friend Otodo Omolo. I haven't seen my friend Omogeni. I haven't seen my good friend here, Senator Oman to even comment, to even question, to even retweet. I am sure if that statement was from President Ruto, some of the guys will be in the streets. Now here we are. They have cast aspersion on the president. They have cast aspersion on the deputy president. They have cast aspersion on their colleagues in the legal fraternity. They have now said Parliament is dead. Why don't you? Parliament is a deliberative house. I remember in the last Parliament, the 12th Parliament, the same sentiments were there that Parliament was dead under a different speaker. Right now, Wetangula is the head of the current Parliament. They are saying it's dead. The last Parliament, it was the Honorable Muturi. They said it was dead. The other Parliament, it was somebody else. They said it was not working, even under the Solomonic guidance by the Honorable Marende. So really, anything that does not originate from our friends here, and you understand, this is a script, it's a cult. It's a cult mentality. Anything that does not originate, that has not been fathered, that has not been sanctioned by Bapa and cohorts, does not enjoy the legitimacy and trust of Kenyans. We need to move away from that idea, in particular from my good friend here. You are not a product of Raila Odinga or Odium because you are here as an independent representative of, and you can, I bet you will have made it under any party. But my two friends here are disadvantaged because they must ape, they must think, and they must behave in a manner consistent with the aspirations and things of the political dynamics. So to that extent, I am not going to support President Ruto when I know he's making a mistake. And that's why I said we will not allow the blanket condemnation of the judiciary. But they've talked about particular cases, and I'm glad that that issue was clarified. They said there are rotten elements within the judiciary. It's within their rights. If you are questioning why they have said that, honestly, you want also infringe on their rights. I want to say this on this. President Ruto, you're on the right track. Continue making decisions. Respect the judicial independence. Where you have evidence against corrupt individuals, please lead the nation. Let's get rid of those individuals. But I think, generally speaking, you want to impair.
Thank you.
Let me say this. You want to impair the operations, the activities, the thinking, the legislative mandate of Parliament by declaring it dead. You want to curtail every good thing that the president and his government initiates and say this should not come. If the president was making, and I want to ask my good friends here, if the president was making mistakes and you know he's their political competitor, why don't you wait for your political competitor to make grave political mistakes and deal with him in the parliament? Why do you struggle? Allow me this. Why do you struggle to correct him on every slightest decision? It's the fear. This gentleman is making decisions, and I will take you this, the ball. Take this. You are not born. Maybe my friend here, Omugiri might have been. From 1963 to 68 up to now, this country is barely struggling. You know it. What has happened? Because Mzee Kenyatta did not make decisions that will have assisted this country, that would have catapulted this country to join the League of Developing Nations. We lost opportunities. Muzoboy came, maintained the status quo. Kibaki came and tried. Uhuru came, did a bit of ego messaging. This is the time for President Ruto to make decisions that will move us from these serious economic perils and help us join the League of Developing Nations like Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, China, and these other countries. And look at the history of those countries. Individuals painfully, some of them through militarism, made decisions. If you want us to struggle, you are complaining about the shilling. Look at our external debt. Look at our domestic debt. Look at our import portfolios. Look at our export portfolios. We have reached a level where even today this paper that you see here is imported from China. That is not the country that we need to have. We need to make tough decisions that will move us. That is the fear that they have. That is the fear that they have. Oh, this give him an opportunity. By I will say early 2025, I can bet they will be going around. Once my friend Omugeni will defect to UDA. My friend here will struggle now to succeed Baba. Hoping that they will allow him because I know he's an outsider with it. I've been part of the political establishment of ODM. They will not allow you because of your brains. Let me just say, they will not allow you because of your brains. I am concluded. They will not allow him because
how does the judiciary come to success?
The owners of the party feel threatened by his immense knowledge and therefore he will remain an outsider. My friend here is a very good lawyer and you know the times are also approaching. It's because of this dynamic that you must remain relevant. At the expense of who? At the expense of everybody. Right. Keep on pushing, but I can tell you, and wherever they are, the decisions the president is making will yield fruits. Watch this towards the end of the tail end of this year, early next year, and we will have nothing else to comment other than to say wacha tuungane na president.
All right.
Asante.
Prophet Ned and Kenan has spoken. We are waiting to see if all this will come to pass, to know and acknowledge if he's a true prophet. Right? Okay, but we have to get reactions from you.
Many people watch the show, and I'm sure they are now tweeting saying, Honorable Kenan has derailed from the debate. Because this is about this serious matter of independence of the judiciary. We have not even reached where we can talk about assessing the performance of the Huda administration. You know, when you talk about the dollar at 166, we should all have collective shame. 166. Honorable Kenan, it's collective shame. You know, if you open this newspaper and see what's happening to business people, people who are importing various products from China, they are not able to service their loans. Our brothers who are very good business people from Central are crying. Their properties are being auctioned because your UDA regime is not able to understand.
All right.
You're swallowed. But let's not derail first.
Yes.
You know,
I wanted to.
No. Let's go to the statement first. You know, let's not derail. Let's have the record straight. Honorable Kenan says the statement by JSC did not condemn the executive. I also have it here. Really? If you go to paragraph 11, it says, and I want to read, it is regrettable that the leadership of the executive,
Go ahead, finish the
under
statement.
the Constitution is the president.
Finish.
In their recent public declarations, have threatened not to obey court orders. The JSC is telling the executive that you have threatened not to obey court orders. Then it says, and that's what is important, these threats and declarations are extremely serious and a monumental assault to the Constitution, rule of law, and the very stability, I hope you are listening, the very stability of the nation, and can lead to chaos and anarchy in our motherland. What else do you want to pick from that statement? That is really the grundrum. That's the main message that the JSC is giving to the executive. That if you go this road, you will lead the country to anarchy. And you know, unfortunately, Bal, when you create a situation where all democratic institutions are perceived to have broken, that's how you even kill democracy. That's how you make military to become interested in what is happening. And that's what the JSC is telling the president, that please don't go that route. And we should pray for him this morning to, for once, sit back and reflect on a statement read by a body that has his own attorney general and his two representatives appointed by him to represent the public. He should step back. That's why you see in some countries, when the situation degenerates, the military says the country cannot be governed by the Constitution. They step in and they take over. So when the JSC is speaking, pause, reflect, and correct your wayward ways.
I hope he's not inviting the military to...
No, I'm not. I'm saying the Judicial Service Commission is cautioning. When you are being told, when they tell you you're going to take the country to anarchy, what are they telling you? So they are telling you, walk the narrow path, respect the Constitution, respect the court orders. That's what we all aspire in a democracy. We want, if the parliament, I'm a parliamentarian, but if we enact a legislation that is perceived to be unconstitutional, when the court rules, we respect. You remember Dibal. William Ruto was against BBI. BBI was passed by 42 county assemblies out of 47. 2 parliaments, National Assembly, Senate, passed it. But it was declared unconstitutional by the courts. What did President Uhuru do? He respected the court decision, and the BBI died. And so we expect our current president to also be a man of humility and accept that in a democracy like ours, you may pass some decisions that can be nullified by the courts. Dibal, even in the US, when we had President Roosevelt, who had a supermajority, you know, in Congress, Roosevelt had 333 members out of 400 plus. In the Senate, he had 87 out of 100. And he wanted to push through legislations as if nobody should check over him. But the Supreme Court of the US made various declarations of those legislations being unconstitutional. And he made an attempt, just like what President William Ruto is doing, of weakening the Supreme Court by amending the Judicial Service Act and introduce an extra 6 judges so that they can rule favorably to his legislations. But you know what? Listen to what Otiende Amolo is saying. It is actually Congress that applied brakes on Roosevelt. So I'm appealing to you, Kenan, to also join us here and speak in defense of the Constitution, in defense of an independent judiciary, just the way you have told President William Ruto this morning to respect that institution of the judiciary.
Thank you. Right. Let's hear from let's hear from we'll come to you, then we go. Let's go sequentially. I know you are outnumbered, and I'm giving you more time right, on this particular panel as well.
Also, but I want to be there to ask him to breathe in and out. You know, some of these things you say, I'm bitter fact. Just breathe in.
All right. I want just to look at the person of the Attorney General, and him also being the chief advisor to the president or the executive as it is right now. Do you think he has failed in his duties to advise the president? Some of these legislations that are being challenged, most of them in court, with the housing levy, NHIF, financial act that we saw was a bill before it was enacted. All of this, there seems to be maybe, how is the president violating blatantly the Constitution when it is very clear some of these issues that it should be, you know, the preserve or follow the due diligence as far as the Constitution is concerned? Has he failed in his duties? A case in point is, maybe I can bring it to bear, is the issue also of the Kenyatta University Hospital. There has been a debate whether it's a statutory corporation or it is actually a hospital for the university. And I think the parliamentarians, they made the decision that it should go back to Kenyatta University. But we saw the Attorney General also toeing and froing on this particular issue, giving different statements as far as the legal notice for is concerned. One, he was saying, first of all, it is for the hospital. Again, he came and circled back and said, no, it is a statutory corporation as it is, until the parliamentarians have made the final decision that it should go back to Kenyatta University Hospital. Is he doing a sloppy job as an Attorney General, from your assessment?
Well, I had an opportunity, to serve in the National Assembly for 2 terms when he was Speaker. And he is also a long-serving lawyer. I've even been a magistrate, and he has a history in the legal profession. And you can see a lot of times the Attorney General relies on information being given to him, and that could guide a decision. It is also advised by his office, the Solicitor General, and quite a number of lawyers who are there. In a big way, he also participates in politics. And if you look at the previous Attorney Generals of the country, Amos Wako, and the rest, they guided the country, correctly in so many other things. So when it comes to the current Attorney General, he's suffering the same problem. Parliament is suffering. And I've said it's like, the government of William Ruto is like that Muzungu whose knee was on George Floyd. So the knee of Ruto is on Parliament. Now it is on judiciary. It is also on Muturi. So as he makes some of this decision, he can't breathe. The knee is there. He says, I can't breathe. He has told you are the Attorney General, you have to make this decision. And he has to become like Sir Thomas More. He has to tell the president when he's wrong that we are sorry. This is what the Constitution says. Sorry, President, you are wrong. The moment he wants to walk that path of Thomas More, you see threats that the Attorney General must be removed. I want to tell Muturi to stay with the law, like Sir Thomas More, and die with it. For this knee will not be long on the people of Kenya. The people are supreme. The people made the Constitution. The Constitution is the law which guides us till we change it. And therefore, the will of the people through the Constitution must be respected, including by Muturi himself and by President Ruto. And he has to be firm. He has to be so firm, like Sir Thomas More, who refused to misadvise the king, and his legacy will live many years. Even if they want to remove him as Attorney General, so be it. I am very sure it will be challenged in the same courts, and he will remain with the Constitution and remain with the truth.
Right.
So I will urge him not to be coward, because some of this going back and forth, it is part of the knee. And you know, when the knee is on your neck and you can't breathe, your life is at danger.
Right.
You can make decision this way, decision that way.
Okay, let me come to Ojene Molo and just ask you also the same question. Do you think actually he's functioning his purpose expertly as an Attorney General? And given also this is an appointee of the President, does it in any way emasculate him in making firm decisions, as Dan Manzo is putting it here?
Well, I'll come to that shortly, but let's set the record straight in terms of some utterances by my brother, Adan Kainan here. First, Kainan, I think, has mastered the art of diversionary debate. On any single subject, he brings the entire world. We are talking about the judiciary, then he brings successions, he brings Raila, he brings I don't know what, everything under the sun except what we are discussing. We refuse to go that way. All I can tell my brother Adan Kenan, and he knows me, some of us, we speak passionately because we believe in this, not for the convenience of the TV show. You know that when it comes to legal and constitutional matters, some of us have always stood firm, even when our own side has found it convenient to go a certain way. We were with you in Parliament when I was the Vice Chair of the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, and I stood and said sections of the BBI report were unconstitutional against my own party. And you will remember the spat we had with my own leader, Honorable Mbadi, Honorable Junet, and all the others. In fact, it cost me my seat. But what I said was the truth, and eventually the courts vindicated. What the courts have said in terms of this affordable housing thing are things that are not new. If you look at the Hansard of Parliament, I said it, and I warned my colleagues. I even told them that even if you want to support the president in terms of affordable housing, then have a legal and proper foundation for it. Don't just sneak it in the finance bill. It will be struck down, and that's what happened. So we don't speak out of some convenience or out of some imaginary battle for succession that Adan Kenan keeps talking about. I am not in any succession issue. I have been elected for the second term by the people of Rarieda. My obligation is to serve them and serve the country. Secondly, there's a big difference between what Adan Kenan is now talking about, what Raila said after the Supreme Court decision, and what Ruto has said. You can critique or even attack a judgment as long as you do not attack the person of the judge who made it. That's the fundamental difference. Raila expressed displeasure, and there was good ground for displeasure with the Supreme Court in terms of its decision. Yes, first it was after, so there was nothing pending. Secondly, he attacked the substance of the judgment, including the refusal by the Supreme Court to have a situation where we can access and open the servers. He did not claim that the judges in the Supreme Court were corrupt. That's why they made the decision. So he did not attack the person of the judges. He attacked the substance of the judgment, and that's a fundamental disregard. And this matter must not be taken lightly. If you allow William Ruto right now to say he can choose which court orders to obey, then there are two possibilities. Either you disagree with him as we do, or you agree with him now. If you agree with him, the consequences can be more severe. One, as Okongo Mogeni was saying, then we can all go back and say, so the first order that was made after elections, which was declaring to be winner, is an order to be ignored. Where does that take us? So we are free to choose whoever is you call your president. What are the consequences of that? Two, if you accept that position, then come 2027, there's an election and he loses, and then he says, I do not accept that because these are corrupt judges. Where will that take us? Either way, it's a very dangerous trajectory to take. Thirdly, about Rigathi Gachagua, Honorable Kenan says we are speculating, we don't know what complaint is going to bring, but I think then Honorable Kenan did not see the DP, where he was talking. I think it was in church actually, and he was very clear. He mentioned a particular judge, the Honorable Esther Maina, saying she gave orders that were adverse to him. and that he is going to file a complaint against her for that reason on Thursday. That was very specific. It's not speculative. We are not speculating. This is very specific. And we were just saying that if that's the kind of complaint you have, then, you know, it tells you that all that the DP and the president are saying is just, you know, it's neither here nor there. It's about trying to intimidate the court to make positive orders, because it means, Rigathi Gachagua is saying that judge should not have made any orders against him, and that their complaint is any judge who makes any orders that affects their person or their policies is therefore corrupt and unfit to hold office. That's absolute nonsense. Now, come to the issue of the Attorney General. I sympathize with the Honorable Muturi, because I think he's between a rock and a very hard place. He is the chief legal advisor to government and the representative of the executive to the Judicial Service Commission. And he's supposed to give legal advice. You know, unfortunately, advice can only be given. It cannot be imposed. So it is your business to advise in a certain manner. If the person you're advising does not take, there's very little you can do. The only thing you can do is what he did, which is join the rest of the Judicial Service Commissioners in pronouncing themselves that the trajectory the president and the executive are taking is wrong. It takes a lot of courage to come up in that manner, because we've seen there have been instances when the Attorney General extracts himself from the Judicial Service Commission to say, I am not part of that decision. The fact that he stood in that press conference, they pronounced themselves, as Okomo Ogene has said, tells you he has obviously advised. But we have a president who knows more law than all the lawyers. And that's the problem we have here. That's why even all the advice we gave in Parliament and all that, you know, it was all in vain, because he instructed his many stalwarts, like Honorable Kenan in Parliament, that passed that. We were telling them, you cannot start collecting tax without a foundational law. I think he must have said, that's nonsense. You pass it, we will deal with it. Now, when the courts then put a break, then now he has a problem with everyone else. I think the Attorney General is in a very difficult situation. The only thing I would urge is that he has an obligation to advise the president and the executive, but he also has an obligation to the country, because he's the Attorney General of the Republic of Kenya. So the advice he gives in private, he should also share it in public, so that at least the court of public opinion would know where he stands on these matters.
Though he enjoys also the tenure of office, could it be the same frustration that we saw with the previous Attorney General that we had?
It's a bit dicey there.
It's a bit dicey?
Because first, you know, the Attorney General is simply a member of the cabinet. The president appoints members of the cabinet with the approval of the National Assembly. But he does not require anyone's approval to fire them. So to that extent, the Attorney General is at the mercy of the president. Now, of course, the Act shields the Attorney General to a certain extent, okay? But it does not shield the Attorney General like any other independent holder of office. The Attorney General can be removed by the president at will. So it's a very dicey situation. Yes.
All right, Congo Mogene, briefly, as we're winding up on this, I think Eden Kena, then we come to you. Eden.
You see, these are seasoned lawyers. and with a lot of experience on political activism. And right now, they are trying to mix law, politics, legislation, and so many things, just like what Otieno was accusing me of. It's the same thing that he's doing. I think let's face the facts. The presence of, I have no doubt, in the experience, the qualification of J.B. Muturi as a seasoned lawyer. Equally, his presence in that particular meeting, I don't see anything suspicious, because he was only doing his work as a member of
the JSC.
JSC. And even that particular statement, I know my friends have magnified it. I don't see anything harmful even to the government. To say that, please, if you have an issue, give it to us directly, do this. I find it as a bit civilized. And therefore, the Attorney General, and Isaac Ruto, you know, is political, is witty. If there was anything adversarial, I'm sure Isaac Ruto will have also recused himself. So that should not be amplified. But let's come to this. In judicial decision makings, I know it's complex. And there are no two lawyers or two legal minds with the same interpretation, even if it's the same decision. But right now the argument has been put in a way that politics, the law, the courts, and everything else. So when judicial decisions must not, appear to be fair. But even the persons, the individuals, must also accept it that, this is the right thing, must see it as a very fair process. Right now people are questioning. And I remember my friend here, when it was unceremonious and removed as the vice chair. He's one person, really, I don't doubt his legal mind. At that juncture, he left it in parliament. I didn't see him outside there critiquing the handshake partners at that particular time. He did his debate in parliament, he lost it, and he just left it there. I'm sure he would not have done it forcefully the way he's doing right now on the president. But that's a debate for another day. Where we are right now, and I will repeat this, we will not allow a blanket condemnation of the judiciary. Equally, we will not also allow a blanket support to the corrupt elements within the judiciary. And these are two different things. So let's allow these two things to go hand in hand. Let's protect the judiciary. Let's also pinpoint the corrupt elements within the judiciary so that we have a clean, efficient, corruption-free, that meets both the letter and the spirit of the 2010 Constitution, which I am here, my friend here, the Honorable Otieno Molo, was part and parcel. That is what they had in mind. Right now, the politics is this. There's something called restraint in decision making. Even, you see, we have three arms of government. There are so many things that today I can do as a member of parliament, both on the floor of the house and outside parliament, that can infringe on the rights of the members of the executive and even members of the judiciary. But because of my legislative restraint, I have to say, is this good for the national good? Does it meet the test of time? Right now, I looked at this issue of the housing levy. I'm sorry to say this, and it's not going to be subsidy. This issue was in court. Parliament did all the due diligence, whatever it did. The courts made the decision. The government came up with a bill. Even before the other dynamics came into being, somebody went to a court in, I think in Western Kenya, and got a restraining order. If I was that particular person, and I don't want to intrigue, well, I've said, look, this issue is already in Parliament, this issue is already has gone through the High Court, it's already before the Court of Appeal, let me look around. I never even asked the opinion of the respondent. That didn't happen, we just found it. I think there are certain things that we need, that's why we are right now, we are appealing for judicial, or call it a restraint by the different arms of government. That's the only way that all of us can contribute to the national well-being. And the national well-being is very important because we only need to look around. We only need to look around. Kenya has been a haven of peace. We only need to look around. And let's not take this for granted. Because somebody can make, like there's something that happened in El Salvador 2 days ago. I don't know whether you have heard that story, yeah? And I think it has been in the media. Simply because of a decision by one person in the correctional facility, community. The whole country now is engulfed in serious security challenges. So let's be very careful. Whether you're in the judiciary, whether you're in the executive, whether in parliament, there are certain things that must meet the tenets of the national interest. That's why everything that the government does, an injunction, a restraining order, allow the president to work.
All right, so
and the government to work.
We're taking a short break. Is the departmental committee on housing and urban planning right now, who will be going to the 19 counties of this country, operating illegally? And will this public participation be, can we deem it illegal if we're involving the wananchi in this public participation, as it were, right? Okongo Mogini will answer that, then we wind up that particular topic and we gravitate to another issue as well. There is a very interesting also development so far, as you can see on the front page of the Star. Uhuru Matiang'i to be quizzed. This is an exclusive that Kenyatta and a host of his senior state officials will be key witnesses. Majority Leader Kimani Ichung'wah preparing State Capture Commission bail. What does that portend? for the former president and also the former Minister of Interior. When they took over power, they say that, of course, they're going to revisit the state capture. It is not just going to slide away and go down the tubes just easily, right? But we're going to see where this will head. We take a short break. We circle back with more.